Let me answer the first question he handed to me. Someone from Sarawak, Japek's friend. Okay, that's quite a difficult question. It says nowadays, is it a female? If a female layperson practices vipassana meditation to attain arhathood, can she still be alive on earth? How many days left that she remain alive so that she attain arhathood, or how long the arahat lives? Okay, and which sutta is this mentioned? So this question is about a lay woman attaining arhathood and how long she will live. All right. Okay, the first thing is layman arahat are rarely mentioned in the suttas. Hardly a handful. It's very difficult for lay people to attain arahathood. Reason is because an arahat overcomes all attachment to the body. We are very attached to our body, right? We get married, we have families, you know. We are attracted to beauty and repulsed by ugliness. So that there is this what's called enjoyment of sensual pleasures. So this prevents us from becoming non-returners even. So the Buddha taught us to keep the precepts and reflect on impermanence to attain stream winning. So stream winning prepares us on the path gradually to let go more and more of the defilements and attachment to the body, to be able to meditate into jhanas. The jhanas help us to overcome attachment to the body. How? The jhanas bring us a trans-somatic or beyond the body kind of pleasure, pure mental pleasure. So when we are able to enjoy such very high, refined pleasure, we are no more attracted to the body anymore. So that's what being a monk is about, to practice meditation so that we can attain that kind of level and then build up ourselves to overcome all the 10, what I call 10 fetters, and then basically no more attached to the body and its pleasures, and that's how we become arahats. There are stories in the suttas, like the story of Bahiya Daruchirya, who, as a layperson, became an arahat listening to the Buddha. But then he died within 7 days. So very often, traditionally, it is said layman arahats would die within 7 days. No explanation is given. But from the way the stories are told, one possible explanation is that as an arahat, a layman arahat, arahats do not have any more attachment. They would not go around asking for food. They would not work for money. They would not work, basically. So they just go on to meditate, and if they get food, they eat. With no food, they are quite happy. And then they just die after 7 days. That's one possible explanation. That is why we are told they have to become monks. Because when they renounce it, when they become monks, they have to keep to the Vinaya. What does the Vinaya say? You got to go on arms round. You got to practice the monastic rules. The monastic rules keep us alive as monks, as good monks, and we go on arms round, we eat, and then we practice, and we teach the dharma. We are useful to the people, and we go on living like that. So that's the first level of arhathood. That's called the awakening with nibbana with remains. The remains are the 5 aggregates without clinging. And then when this arahat passes away, that's called the first one is nibbana with remains, and the last one is nibbana without remains. There's nothing more. The consciousness is normal footing, and the person is no more reborn. So that's the arahat. He has to renounce in that sense. So for a layperson, at the most 7 days, right? Now, I've made a note on this in my translation of the Nalakapana Sutta, M68 in ST 37.4, section 4. So my advice is, if the questioner, if you want the details, please message me through Telegram or through Messenger on my Facebook, or even email. The best is Messenger. Messenger is very fast. You can send big files. Then I'll send you all these files for you to, all these notes and suttas for you to read. Okay. All right. So that's the first question. Okay, let's go on now. Any other question? It's best that you unmute yourself and ask the question live. We are very short-handed here, just Rana and me running this whole gamut. Okay.
Okay, Piya,
Yes.
there are two questions
Sure.
here from Brother Hai Eng.
All right.
Penang. You want him to ask the question directly, or you want me to read the question to you?
Whichever is convenient.
Okay, I think I'll just read to you. The first question is about our body experience. He said our body experiences at near-death experiences, are they experiencing another realm of existence or just hallucination?
Okay.
Then there's another part. What about intermediate state, like the Chinese believe 49 days of the BARDO state, as the lama and rinpoches preach in Tibetan Buddhism? Is there another realm of existence or spirit ghost realm?
So we have two questions, huh?
Yeah.
All right. The first question is about NDE, OBE, out of body experience, near-death experiences. Okay. Now I'm answering with not having experienced all these things, but I've read quite a lot about them. And I think I've written something about them somewhere. I've got to look up in my index. From what I have read from these experts who've written about these experiences, they are the consciousness coming out, or consciousness existing by itself, and usually it's like floating around and it's kind of looking down and seeing all these things, right? So this shows that our consciousness can exist independently. There are scientists and materialist philosophers who feel that, oh, the body and the mind are together. But so this kind of experiences prove that the mind can exist by itself. So insofar as we accept that NDE and OBE are true, in other words, the mind can exist by itself and then experience all these things, and we can say that this mind can exist independently, okay? But of course, these are not often reported, and maybe some of you may have experienced this. So that's the best I can say. If you want more reply, because this is a difficult subject, I can look up some materials, I can pass them to you so that you can read them in more detail, carefully, rather than a short answer. Because these are things you need to go into some detail for a really better perspective. Intermediate state, okay, Antarabhava. Now this one is another controversial teaching. From what I understand nowadays, most mainstream Theravada Buddhists accept the teaching that there is some kind of intermediate state, because the suttas seem to mention them, support the ideas. For example, in the teaching of the 5 kinds of non-returners, you find a couple of them actually seem to attain arhathood during the intermediate state. The intermediate state means a situation where the person dies, but is not yet reborn. So the consciousness is sustained by past craving, past karma. So during that time, something happens, right? More than that, it depends on the various schools. They will have their own ideas, 49 days and so on. I've asked many teachers, and they say, no, no one is really sure how many days. It can take a short period, it can take a very long period. Nobody knows how long. So it depends on the karma of the person. So the simple answer is yes, we do accept there is this intermediate state. So what is the significance here? Now, the significance is we don't know really whether this person has passed away is in the intermediate state or not. intermediate states, it's not really good. You're stuck there with nothing happening, so to speak, you know, and it's in a sense dull and boring. So the person should move on, so basically, all right. Number two, you have the preta state. Okay, I don't think they are the same. They are two separate states. So it's because we do not know whether our beloved deceased is caught up in an intermediate state or still a preta. A preta is still dependent on us for, you know, all kinds of things. So especially emotionally independent on us. These pretas are so caught up with their past existence, their past place of abiding and so on. So they find it difficult moving on. So that is why when during the last rites, we practice, we cultivate metta, loving kindness, and we send these thoughts out to the suffering person and say, basically, be well and happy wherever you are, let go, right? So we want you to be well and happy. So this being in the intermediate state, this preta, feels a sense of joy, and it is this joy that frees the preta from his suffering state. And I suspect a similar process may, I only say may occur in the case of the intermediate being, because in the case of the intermediate being is a bit more complicated, because he has to await his karma to ripen further, it seems. So this idea of the pretas, how to dedicate, not transfer, there's no such thing as transfer of merits, dedicate merits. We have some detailed study. I've spoken about this in a couple of other talks. So all these, there are details. Again, you please write in for the notes if you want them. Okay? Okay.
Brother Hai Eng from Penang, he says that a famous Dharma teacher said health and heaven are mental states in our mind. When we are happy while and after doing good deeds, we are in heaven. When we are sad or suffering, we are in hell. May I have Sir's opinion regarding this concept of hell and heaven as purely mental state?
Yes, nowadays many monks take the safe way, and they would answer this way, and I would agree to some extent, because we can't prove these things. We've got to be quite honest and open. We can't prove these things. All right, even if we have been there, we can tell stories, but we don't really know, are they our own private experiences? A private, very private experience is not normal. Okay, there is some kind of level of pathology. So a safe way is to say that they are mental states. And indeed, if you look at the suttas, they are mental states. Those beings are mental states. And if you read the stories, even though we accept them as pure mental states, they are still meaningful stories. All those Greek mythology and I love the stories of Sakura. They're really beautiful. And it doesn't matter to me whether he's a deva, mental state or not. But the stories are there, whether they're devas or humans, the stories tell us this is how you should live well as a human being. You can live divinely as a human being. You can live like gods as a human being. So even in the human world, you can live like devas. That is why we have what are called the divine abodes. That's why they're called divine, because you don't have to go to heaven to cultivate those divine qualities of loving kindness, which is a Brahma emotion. The Brahmas cultivate these wonderful qualities. You can cultivate now. So it doesn't matter about heaven. I mean, you go to heaven, it's impermanent, you know, and there are many suttas which tell us, if you are reborn in heaven and you're not a past saint, after that, once you fall from the heavens, you go down the snake and ladders, you know, you go down to the suffering states, to the preta world, animal world, and hell. So I would say it's a safe bet to say all these states are mental states, whether they exist in themselves or on earth. A part of it, yes, is how we behave now. But I do suspect, that's all I can say, there are such states. How they exist, I don't know fully, because I cannot speak from experience. However, I have one more guess, also I call it suspicion. The way the Buddha describes all these devas, they sound very much like aliens, okay? Because if you watch all those space movies, you find many of those aliens are very much like some of the beings described as devas and all these demons and so on. So the Buddha could be hinting to us that these are beings from other quadrants of the universe. That I leave to your imagination. It's a very futuristic thing. There may come a time in the future where we make alien contacts. I mean, this is what we have been doing progressively since the past, you know. First, the Portuguese came to Malacca, I remember. The first time we've seen a white man, we say white Bengali and so on. And what in the future, you get aliens coming here. And this raised some very interesting problems, you know. So these aliens may come here and then somehow, let's say we manage to talk with them with some common language and they start discussing religion. They'll be befuddled, they'll be confused. They say, wow, you have amazing religions here. You have religions that believe in some racial events in the past, and then you make that into a big religion. And they say, what is this God idea and so on, you know? And they can't accept all these things. That doesn't make sense from their universe. But they come from a totally different universe, and we're talking about God created the universe here. Whereas when they listen to the Buddha, they say, wow, this sounds familiar. The way the Buddha teaches the Dharma applies to all beings anywhere in the universe. That is why the Buddha is called teachers of gods and humans, Satta Deva Manusana. I mean, that's really amazing, isn't it? Okay, next question.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have a question from Brother Long. Brother Long, please unmute yourself.
Okay, from US, right?
Yeah. So I got a question. So we were trained to do like loving kindness, calm, insight. So when we were reading this sutta was explaining to us about the torture, the hell. So I was thinking about like, you know, some of reading all these things. We all know that okay, bad karma, you will inflict bad result. So is there should we do meditation or should we reflect about, you know, the hell torture so that it instill the fear in us? Because I'm assuming some of, you know, not all, some of us, I guess a lot of us, we're still not doesn't have the fear because we're still born to this world. So should we do it like that, like the Christians? The Christian, they really fear. So should we, as a Buddhist, should we instill the fear in ourselves too?
Okay, my first impulse would be no. I think we should not strike fear in the Buddhist. And this has never really been a tradition, although as I said in Singapore, we do have Happā Villa where hell is, you know, physical hell, all those, all those figurines. The point is you don't have to instill fear. In the course of our lives, we will see such sufferings. So these teachings is what you call that, they prepare us so that we are not shocked by what we see. You know, people get shocked, they can go mad, they can be terrified, you know, and they cannot handle this, so the mind shuts down. So this sutta is there to tell us this is possible, all right? So of course we say, oh, I don't want this to be possible. This is scary, I don't like this. That's a natural reaction. That is why no one enjoys teaching or listening to this sutta. In fact, the previous source, I think, canceled this sutta because it's so scary. And I was very reluctant to teach it at first too. So my point here, there is a psychological reason for teaching the sutta to desensitize us, to prepare us when the real things happens, so that we are not shocked by it, but we say, oh my, this is true. The Buddha said about it, and now I see it before my eyes during wars, during, you know, some terrible tragic events. So we can see this thing and we know they're real. We know the suffering is real. The hell stories are not about you better practice otherwise you go to hell. No, that's not Buddhistic at all. It's that these painful suffering states are possible. And when you see them, just understand that this is how it works. but we don't want to be a part of it. We want to get out of it. So this is where we do the compassion reflection. We say, may these beings overcome their suffering quickly. This is what King Yama actually tries to do. He says, why don't these beings learn all this lesson? I mean, these 5 sides are always there. Why don't they learn? You know, this is what King Yama was trying to say. So it's a lesson in that sense. It's not to frighten people, but to prepare them and say, look, this is what you're heading for. So why take this path? It's not worth it. It's a path of pain. Okay? All right. Let's go
Okay,
on.
thank you very much. Next, we have a question from Brother Go, HK Go.
Okay.
Brother Piya, is the logics of implicit and explicit teachings also applicable to the heavenly planes? Example, Sakura.
Okay. I would say if you look at the story of Sakura, the way it started, Sakura was a Vedic hero. He was a fierce war god. And interestingly, he is a kind of what they call that equivalent of Apollo, you know, more or less in Greek mythology. All these mythologies have very close connection because they come from the same roots in the past. And then when they came to India, it took a different development. And then the Vedic tradition have got this Sakura, who is a fierce fighting god, and he got converted by the Buddha. The Buddha tells his story, and he became a kind of a really exemplary god. He is one of the most exemplary of the gods, but he is from the lower level. In fact, he belongs to the 2 first levels of the heavens, and these 2 heavens, the 4 guardian kings and heaven of the 33, they are called the 2 earthbound heavens. Earthbound heaven, Bhumata Saga. And whereas the other heavens are sky bound, you know, they are like what you call space bound, if you like. So this is a very interesting way the ancients talks about the heavens. So Sakura is very much like the Greek gods, very, or should I say, almost human. So he was very mischievous like Apollo, and then he learned his lesson, and then he became very, very good. And I would recommend you read his life story. It's amazing, and I've compiled them together already. And the stories are very beautiful. There are lots of love stories. He has got 4 wives, you know, and then he has to argue with his father-in-law, who is the wife of his favorite. I'm sorry, the father of the favorite wife. And the father is an Asura. The father-in-law is an Asura, mind you. So you can imagine the difficulties they have. They actually fear each other, father-in-law and son-in-law. And then in the end, they manage to be friends. You know? So you don't see the Asuras as a realm by itself. If you look at all these stories from a psychological point of view, they're very valuable. They really teach us a lot of lessons. So it doesn't matter to me whether they're really gods out there or not, but these stories are really instructive. They are very joyful to read, and they are really great lessons for us. At the same time, I would say, who knows, you know, Sakura could be a real being. The Greeks, the ancient Greeks believe in it, and ancient Indians believe in him, and he could be some alien somewhere, you know. But it doesn't really matter. It's a curiosity. We wait in the future, see what happens. But the current stories as told in the suttas, and there are lots of Sakura stories in the suttas and the commentaries, how he became Sakura, how he became the leader of the 33. It's a really beautiful story. If you love doing social work, you must read the story of Sakura, the youth Magga and his friends in the Dhammapada commentary, where it is through social work that Sakura becomes a deva. You become truly godly and divine through social work. So it's a very beautiful story there. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have a question from Brother Hai Eng. He asked about the 5 realms.
Okay.
Original Buddha teaching mentioned only 5 realms of existence. Later, Theravadian teaching has 6 realms of existence. May I have your opinion, please?
Okay, 5 realms. I mentioned earlier, you have the human realm, Deva realm, animal realm, Preta realm, and hell. These are called the Panchagati Sutta. The 6th realm, of course, are the Asuras. But as I told you, the Asuras are not that many, they're very few. The Asuras were the old gods. They were the one inhabiting the earthbound heaven, remember? What became heaven of the 33 later on, the Tawatingsa. So there was this band of old gods. I don't know how many of them. I don't think there are more than 100 or a few hundred. So Sakura, when he first arose in Tawatingsa, as a he's like a super morally virtuous god, you see. So he's not too happy to see these old gods. They're like the Viking gods, that they were drunk and enjoying themselves. And these old gods, they invited Sakura and his 33, say, why don't you join us? Then Sakura quietly told his friends 33, he says, don't join these gods. I mean, this is totally unacceptable of gods, you know, they shouldn't behave like that. But then Sakura himself did something quite ungodly. While these Asuras were drunk, he got his gang of 33 to overthrow them literally from 33, from the heavens. And the story went that they fell from the heaven down into the ocean below Mount Sumeru. Okay, that is onto earth, right? Very Greek kind of story. So these Asuras, previously they were Suras. Sura is another word for God, by the way. Sura also means brave. From Sura you get Surya, the sun. So they were Suras, they were gods. But as they fell, because it's a long fall from heaven down to the ocean below, and this Suras say, oh no, look what has happened to us. We've been overthrown by these young gods. Now we are no more Suras, we are Asura. So that's how they got the name Asura, non or anti-gods. And among the Greeks, they're called the Titans. But the Titans are really powerful and very fierce. And they're always trying to destroy the gods, similar to the Asuras. But in the Buddhist stories, the Asuras, in the end, came to a happy resolution through the marriage between Sakura, king of the gods, and the daughter Vipachiti, king of the Asuras. So that ended the Deva Asura wars. Remember, this happened on the earthbound heavens, you know. So that's one reason why the Asuras are not mentioned as a separate plane, because they're not in many of them, really. They're just a band of old gods. By the way, you have a similar story, a struggle between the old gods led by, I think, Uranus and others. And then you got the new gods, Zeus and Apollo, who kind of toppled these old gods. So it was similar parallel story in the Greek mythology too. So if you do comparative mythology, you see this very interesting development in the ancient Aryan mythologies. So that's the reason why the Asuras are not actually part of the realms. But in the later teachings, they are mentioned as a 6th realm for meditation, for not actually realms where beings exist in a cosmological sense, but for meditation. They became typologies, right? So in other words, the Asuras are characterized by exploitative. They are like those bosses who look at you and say, how much are you worth to me? You better come to work every day. You don't fall sick on my watch, you know. So they just measure people. They don't care anything else about you. That's the Asura character. The Deva are playful. They are the rich, crazy Asians, if you like, you know, something like that kind of mentality. But they're also not so willing to learn. They simply enjoying their good karma. The humans are in between, because we are suffering, so we're learning both good and bad, and then we kind of take the middle path. The animals are characterized by ignorance, not willing to learn, and they're easily predictable, trapped and killed and eaten. The pretas are addictive beings, caught up with, you know, looking for a quick fix, for pleasure, which never satisfy them. And then you have the hell states, the suffering beings are very violent, and they're all the time killing and eating one another, and so on. So you have these 6 kind of psychological states, right? So they're not actually realms in that sense. So I hope this makes it clear. Okay? If I answered too fast, you can replay this recording and listen again. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. We have about 2 minutes left. There's one last question. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Rachel asks, so do the Dhammapada stories contain meanings that need to be drawn out and not explicit?
Oh yes, definitely. As long as they're stories, we've got to ask ourselves, what does this mean to me? As long as they're stories, we can say that. Even the life of the Buddha, you got to ask yourself, well, what does this mean to me? Because we are not Buddha. So as long as they're stories, as long as they are implicit, as long as they are Pugaladitana, people-based, in a sense, you can say it's fiction. So it's the value of fiction. You study literature, fiction is a very variable means of learning. Fiction, in many ways, is more true than reality when I was speaking. So there's a lesson there in all these beautiful stories. The Dhammapada stories are really beautiful, very powerful stories. And some of them are really great literature, especially the story Queen Samawati, King Udena and his 4 queens. You have this idea of what's called nesting, stories within stories within stories, up to sometimes 3, 4 levels, and you got to kind of be aware at which level are you, which story is being told at that time. So I studied this when I was in Thailand as a monk. It's really interesting. So the Dhammapada stories are really worth reading. They all have been translated into English in the Buddhist Legends by Burlingame. The Jataka stories also have been translated, but I think they need to be retranslated because these Jataka stories have been translated in a poetic way by Victorians, Victorian scholars long ago. They left out the commentaries. The Dhammapada also left out the commentaries. So anyway, those stories are really beautiful stories. Yes, they are stories, we have to interpret them.
Thank you very much, Piya. So all the questions have been answered.
Oh, wonderful.
We have no more questions. Next, I would request everyone to turn on your video, and then we have our closing puja, and then after that we'll have take a snapshot of everybody.
Yeah, collective photo. Huh?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, I'm really happy we managed to finish this study without much difficulties. I must really thank Ratna for being so diligent and perspication, a really brilliant technician. She has really helped me a lot, just 2 of us doing this, So hopefully we might get the right kind of volunteers to help us in the future. So, and of course, I'm so happy that you can be with me despite the holidays today to celebrate this Buddhist Renewal Day. This is a day we look at ourselves, try to re-energize ourselves, recalibrate, bring back ourselves to the direction towards the middle way. You have all asked very wonderful questions. We have kept the precepts, we have done meditation. Please keep up your practice. That's the best and only way to preserve the Buddha's teaching. Zoom and all this internet has provided us with this wonderful avenue of teaching the Dharma. So there's a lot of choices you have. Choose wisely what you learn so that they will benefit you. And you got to make effort to learn a bit of how to do all these things so that you get the best. In the end, everything remains your choice, your decision, your practice. Remember all these good deeds you have done today. They will help you in your practice. So let us send our loving kindness to all our loved ones, including ourselves, that we may be well and happy, our loved ones to be well and happy. May our teachers to be well and happy. And other significant people, send your thoughts to them. And also, if you have you want to send your loving kindness, dedicate your merits to those who have passed away, this is a good time, as this is our last lesson for the year too. So it is also a recollection on impermanence. And I really feel so joyful that you all, many of you are my old friends, new friends, Dharma friends. We are gathered together here in this platform. I never thought Rana and I are able to use Zoom to teach you all in this wonderful global way. Here we are, rejoicing in the Dhamma. Let us close with the closing salutation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow to the Buddha. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namassami. We bow to the Buddha Dhamma. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. We bow to the Noble Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, right. Turn on your videos so we can have a photo shot of everyone. You are the historic people.
Everybody. JC doesn't have a video. And Woody.
Yeah.
And GP Woon.
Okay.
Pan Muja is trying to connect. Okay, everybody put your palms together.
Right. Okay.
And smile. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Sadhu, good night, everyone. Good to see you all together here. Some of you have more hair, some of you less hair. But all of you are here. That's wonderful.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Good night.
Yeah, sadhu, good night.
Stay safe, stay well. Thank you very much.
Too. You too.
Thank you, brother. Yeah.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Thank you,
brother
Sister
Piya.
Rana.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, everyone.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
Oh, my grandson is there. Okay. What's your name, by the way? This will be Alfred. Okay.
Alfred Lim.
Oh, okay. Very good. I'll
Good
see
night.
you again. Good night. Good night.